Hey folks, it's Ben. We're here with our 1987 Pontiac Fiero SE. It's got the 2.8 liter V6 engine, and so we're going to be doing an oil change today. So in order to do that oil change, you're going to need two things. You're going to need an oil filter that we have over here, and you're going to need some 5W30 oil. Now traditionally, before we get there, we're going to use a 1036, which is actually not the it's about twice the size of the regular oil filter for this 2.8, which I think is a 1040 in Napa terms, in Napa Goldland, but it's about twice as long, gives you a little bit more filtration area. So I like to run this because the Fiero needs as much oil capacity as it can get. And then in this case, I'm going to be using a 5W30 conventional. This happens to be Walmart brand SuperTech. You can go fancier with the synthetics, but at this point, my biggest issue is to get the existing oil out. The issue I have with this car, and the dipstick is here, is if you look at that oil, it is filthy black. It's been in here way too long. It is at the right level, so that's handy, but it's not where I want it to be. So I'm not even going to pre-warm this engine. Yeah, it looks crappy too. We are just going to dump this oil and change the filter. And that way I feel better about running the engine, and then once we get this car closer to ready for on the road, we can do it again the proper way, and we can use maybe a slightly better oil or a name brand oil, but until that point in time, let's just get this stuff out of here. So let's go to the tools we'll need to do this. The tools of the trade are fairly simple as well. I like to run two drip pans. One's going to be catching the oil out of the drain hole. The second one is going to be for where the oil filter is, because there's always some that's going to come out for that, and I can just drop the old filter into that pan. We need a 15 millimeter, that's the drain plug size, and very fancy. You can use just a regular strap, but I like to use this end cover. This is just a super graphite, whatever. It's a generic wrench for our filter size. So our new filter, if I grab it here, fits in the notches and just allows me to use the end of the filter to twist it off of there. Just follow the instructions in regards to putting it back on, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I like to have a paper towel to wipe off all the surfaces, wipe off the drain bolt, make sure everything is nice and clean before we put it back on. So we've got the car jacked up. In fact, we happen to have it on 4 jack stands, but the reality is you only really need to lift up the rear. And if you can see that bolt right there on the front pan, this back pan here is actually the transmission. This front pan here, which has that 15 millimeter bolt, we're going to go ahead and take it out and let all the oil come out. And I expect it to shoot out, so we have our drain pan a little bit forward of where it's going to be coming out for, because it's just going to rocket out of there, especially if it's warm and you've idled the engine a little bit prior to your changing the oil. Usually the best time to do it is once you've come back from the parts store.
Not quite. There it is.
There you go.
Ew.
And this stuff is fairly thick and gooey, so I'm happy to get it the heck out of this engine, and super black, so we don't know the last time it was changed.
It smells like gasoline.
Yeah, it would, because this car's been stored for a while and only run intermittently. It's never really been hot again, so we're going to let that drain out, and we're just going to make sure as the flow goes, we're going to make sure our pan is perfect for it, so it'll slowly come out to a slow drip. She's going to put the bolt right there on a napkin, and we'll clean it in a little bit. But now we're going to go in front of the rear wheel to get access to the fuel oil, I'm sorry, not the fuel oil, but the
Fuel filter.
Oil filter.
Oil filter, yes.
So we're under the car in front of the passenger rear tire. If you kind of look up on the motor here, you see that orange thing right here. It happens to be a Fram filter and a stubby stock one, so that's interesting. Here we have our starter. This is where the catalytic converter would be. So we're going to go ahead and sneak our wrench up there. Put an extension on it actually, so you might want to use one of those just because it's a little bit up there. And you might need to wiggle closer to it and sneak it in there. Our cat litter pan is just underneath, so hopefully when we break it free it will, and hopefully it's not that tight.
Not tight at all.
Perfect. It'll just drip everything down below. Everything's quite oily up here, so we might have to deal with a valve cover leak or something like that when we eventually get around to it.
Oh dear.
And like I say, this one's gonna drip everywhere. And you can see by on the frame here. It's hard to do these ones very clean. It's kind of what I like about the Buick 3.8s. Yep, take that off and use your hand now. And just kind of bring it down when you're done. And just drop it straight down.
I'm trying, but it doesn't really straight down.
And it's also black and gooey. and not overly full. So we'll take our paper towel, which is right up front here, and we'll wipe the mating surface off. We didn't leave any of the gasket up there, so that's convenient.
There is not really a way to get your arm around this pipe.
No, it's kind of in the way. Imagine if a catalytic converter were here, it's even a little bit tighter. So we've got that wiped off. And so we're good on the actual entire disassembly side. So let's go ahead and pre-fill our oil filter and put it on. And then we'll button up the oil pan side. So we have our filter on the counter here. What we're going to do is actually pre-fill it. And what that does is it just saves the engine about half a second of oil starvation while the oil pump fills the filter. So we're just pour it in slowly. It needs time to kind of spread out through all the medium. And mostly full is fine. It does go in at an angle, so you don't want to like over the top full. But so that you can see that it's in there, maybe let it sit for a second, then fill it in again. And it's, like I said, we're just saving about half a second of starvation on that. And we'll take a dip of our finger and just lube the outside, and we're good with that part now. So that just makes sure that the seal makes it's not holding us up while we actually tighten it to the filter, to the engine block.
Yeah. Try not to do that.
And the side pour is a lot easier too. If you pour from the side like this into the filter, it's a little bit easier to go. So with that, we'll do another dose, but we'll go ahead and meet you under the car and we'll put this new filter in. We have our half-filled oil filter here, and we're just gonna hand thread it on there. And we're gonna turn it on by hand until we actually make contact. And then we're gonna go ahead and tighten it about 1/2 to 3/4 of one turn, and that's all she needs to have.
Can't tell if that's working. Is that working? Yeah, it seems like it is. It's just really greasy.
There you go. It's contact, so now we're just going to use our ratchet, flip it to the tightening side, and we're going to go ahead and tighten it, like I say, about 1/2 to 3/4 of a turn. I usually do like, if I can, you'll have to press up against it too.
I am.
That guy's a little slick.
It is really bad.
About 3/4 turns is what I do.
Just get a lot of oil leakage out of it. That good?
Yep, that's probably great. So we're done on this end of it. Let's go ahead and go back to the oil fill side, wipe our hole down, and put our bolt back in. Alright, so we'll grab our bolt here and wipe it down with our paper towel. Make sure it's got nothing crazy on it. Does it have a magnet on the end of it? Does it have any filings or anything on it, if you can tell?
Nope.
No, probably not. So make sure it's nice and clean. And then wipe off the hole as well, which will continually drip. It's rushy since we're pointed a hair downwards. Retain a little bit more oil, but once again, we just needed to get this crap out of here. Dry that off and hand thread it all the way in as far as you can. We're not putting this thing on tight. We're just gonna put it so that it seats and then a little more. It's not structural, it just holds the oil in. If you do notice it's dripping, tighten it a hair more, but it doesn't need to be put on there very tight. So, here's our wrench. And sometimes they'll give you a fight, especially if you haven't owned the car, like we've just started owning the car, so it doesn't have a lot of legacy with us, but my other ones are well worn in to where I like them to be.
This one actually stopped and then could be hand tightened again. Okay, how tight?
Not very.
Just
Yep, snug, and that's it. So we're good on this end. So we've got the filter on, we've got the bolt put into the drain pan. So let's go fill it with oil. We're now topside, so let's go ahead and put some oil in it. We're gonna shoot for 4 quarts because I can't remember. I think we can get away with 4.5, but we'll put 4 in and check the level. So go ahead and take the cover off, and it says right on it what it wants. We're doing a 5W30 here, so we got that going for us. And we have a funnel. You're gonna wanna use a funnel because the exhaust manifold is right underneath it, so.
Oh, it's really empty.
In there, yeah, in the valve covers for sure.
Yeah, you can see
And I'll
it
actually
at the
hold this
bottom.
for you so it doesn't go. And using our tilt trick, you can probably just hold it over the engine compartment here. And we're gonna put about, like I say, 4 quarts in, 4 liters, if you will. See if I can help it out a little bit by lifting it up. And you can go as fast as the funnel will go, because it'll definitely go to the bottom of the engine faster than that. So that's probably good enough for government work. So we'll wiggle the camera more, geez. And then I'm gonna go ahead and take the funnel out. If we have I'm gonna grab that blue thing there, and we'll pull it out so it doesn't drip all over everything. Not that that matters on this motor. And replace the cover, which I can do while she's out. And we'll grab a paper towel and wipe our oil dipstick dry and take a measurement and see how we're doing.
Where exactly does this dipstick go to? China?
Yeah, it's quite down there for sure. So give that a nice wipe off. And the thing with new oil, of course, is going to be hard to see. Especially when you get the nice synthetics for sure.
Can't see the hole though.
All the way in and all the way out. And the right reading says
Overfull.
perfect. Now understand we have a little space in the oil filter to fill up too. So what we'll do is put the oil stick back and we'll give it just a start and we'll watch the oil pressure gauge. So now we're in the car, we've got the key in the ignition, we're gonna give it a start. This will take a second to power up because we still have to push that air through the oil filter, and then it should go up probably to 550, I guess. It might be 80 pounds, so I'm figuring about 60 or so, and then we can shut it down again after 5-10 seconds. Check the oil again and make sure our level's good, and then we'll have changed our oil. So that pushed oil all around the engine. So now let's go check it. Let's check it one last time. We pull it all the way out, wipe it down, stick it back in the hole.
This is the longest dipstick I've ever handled.
Yeah, it's just not down and out, is it? It's all the way around. And so now we are, if I can focus on the stick, please, which it's
Kinda
not
right
going
in the
to.
middle.
So we're right about, right about here. So we're between the add and full. So that's exactly where we want it to be. And that's how you change your oil in a 2.8 liter Fiero. This is an 87 SE. If you have any questions, ask them. And if you have any comments, leave those as well. Just starting on this car, so we got lots of things to do. I think the next video up for us is actually, it came with wires. So we're just gonna go ahead and use them. But if you have any questions, comments, leave them, and please subscribe to Turbo 231 for more exciting, awesome videos, and we will see you next time.